Hey everybody, I'm Mike Jones. I'm a retired Texas police officer.
G'day everybody, I'm Pete Gillette and I'm a retired New South Wales policeman.
Hey brother.
Hey Mike, how you going, bro?
Good brother. Hey, listen. So I hear you did your last podcast for the Aussie Bush Cop.
Yeah, that was published yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Oh, mate, I'm actually quite overwhelmed by the response. The comments were. I was in bed last night, and I went out. We went out and had dinner at a local brew house last night, and I come home and I was reading some of the comments, and I was just felt overwhelmed by the response, the warm response. It's quite blown me away. So I just want to thank everybody for being so kind and generous and encouraging. I'd run out of adjectives to describe, and when I got up this morning, I felt really almost out of sorts. Just felt so gratified that that people responded so well to it. So thank you very much to everybody. Yeah, words fail me to express it. So
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on there. If you hadn't have started that podcast, you and I wouldn't
yeah,
have
yeah, that's
met.
that's how some of the great things happen, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And my wife told me tonight. I said, "Hey, I got an hour. I need to go get set up because I'm gonna be talking to Peter tonight." She says, Peter keeps taking you away." I said, "I know." I said, it's unbelievable how fast a week goes.
mm,
From the last
mm,
time we do a podcast, because if folks don't know, we do it on Friday night here, Saturday morning at your place,
mm.
and yeah, I'm just glad you did that podcast, and I know there's a lot of people that you're an easy person to like. I mean, you got good presence on the podcast, and you just you come across as a really nice guy. Don't know how true it is, but that's the
That's
way.
right. I can tell you. Um, there was a time I heard this story that Bob Dylan was asked to go and play at the White House for President Obama, and for quite a while Dylan was pressed about, well, what do you think about Obama? And Dylan apparently kept on avoiding the question, and then he said, in the end, Dylan said, well, he said Obama seems like a nice bloke, and Obama said when the concert was over or this little gig, he said Dylan just disappeared. He didn't want to come up and get photographed with me and all the sort of stuff that you'd expect. But anyway, Dylan eventually caved in, and he said, "Well, he seems like a nice bloke to me." But he said, "If you really want to know, ask his wife." That's a good answer, isn't it?
It's a good answer. I mean,
Mm.
also ask your neighbors, ask the
Yeah.
neighbors.
Oh, mate, that actually was something I was going to talk about. Um,
Oh,
um, yeah, well, a few podcasts ago, you were telling us about when you joined the police and what that process was like, and I wondered if people might be interested in what it was like to join the New South Wales Police Force. And so, is it okay if I talk about that?
yeah.
And so what happened was that this is way back, 30 something years ago. And yeah, you probably just got a paper form posted out to you. You probably rang up the police force and they posted this form out. And anyway, but part of the process, and I don't know if they still do it, hopefully they do, but they come out and interview your wife and your neighbours. And I knew this was going to happen. There's no secret. They tell you they're going to do that. And it's the local police station. So where I live was a town of about 5,000 people. And so there was a sergeant in charge of the police there. And and I got to know him later on, he was a particularly dour appearance. He was just not a fun guy. He was just seemed bleak. He had a bleak demeanour. Anyway, there was this sergeant to come round to my home in the afternoon, and I was dismissed in my own home. He come round with one of his officers, come into my
Oh,
home, and he told me to go into my bedroom. I felt like a 10-year-old kid, and Dad come home, and I was in trouble. Anyway, and then he interviewed my wife, wanted to know what I was like. Does he come home and does he belt you up? Is he rude to you? Does he come home and kick the cat? That sort of stuff. And then they go and talk to the neighbours on either side and the neighbours across the road. And
Hmm.
and I was a little bit concerned about one of those neighbours because one of those neighbours I was offside with. I'd had an argument, a big argument with two of them actually. One of them I accepted some blame. The second one was not my fault, and I told this bloke off big time. Anyway, I thought, going to be interesting to see what he's got to say. Anyway, that
So
was part of the process.
how the neighbor, I guess he gave you a good bill
Mm.
of health, huh?
I don't know. It didn't seem to cause a problem. I still got in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was another incident to that I was at the time I was driving a 20-ton garbage truck, and there was a one time during a shift, and half the time I drove it, the other half you're running behind it. Anyway, and we had to quite a few places. We had to drive up these pretty narrow laneways to get to big bins out the back and different business houses. And anyway, during the shift, the sergeant, another sergeant it was, he showed up and said, "Oh, listen, boys," he said, "I've had a complaint that you reversed your truck into someone's car." And he told me where and said, "Well, that never happened." I said, "I saw all the damage on that car when I drove in there that morning. That was already there." And I said, "Beyond that, you go and measure the back of my truck and you measure the damage on that car. It ain't going to match." And he didn't need me to tell him that. He was an experienced policeman and just wasn't the truth. And there was a connection between the people that I was offside with and that damaged car. They were really trying to scuttle me. Anyway, they found out it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. People like that. Your camera keeps going in and out of focus.
Ah, right.
I think it
Okay.
might be on automatic focus.
Ah, right. Mm.
Is
Yeah, I
Wade in
actually
there?
noticed that was a bit blurry.
Yeah, it
Mm.
looks good now, but
Mm. Mm. I never
it'll
look
go.
great, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's doing it now, isn't it?
yeah.
Hmm. Don't know if
Is it
way.
a real camera or is it like a webcam?
Oh, I don't know, mate. I don't know. I know. I don't
Hey,
know.
so I brought up, and I was talking to you about it earlier, that I coming out here to get ready for this podcast today. I really didn't know what to talk about and what people would find um, interesting. You and I discussed it, several times now that um, one of the reasons why maybe the main reason why you stopped your podcast is because you ran out of stories to tell. But
Mm.
yet you got, I think you told me 14 years under your belt, right?
Mm. Mm.
So you've got tons of stories, but for you and for me, they're not stories. They're just normal
That's
days
right. Yeah.
work, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
and we forget most of it, whereas people on the outside who are not in the law enforcement, they think stuff like that is interesting, and I get it. Um,
Mm.
so you probably got tons of stories still that just something will jog your memory in a couple
Yeah.
of days. You're like,
Mm.
man, I
Mm.
remember that. Um,
Yeah.
a funny short one is I went on a call for a cattle being in somebody's yard at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it got out of its fence some we call them paddocks and we call them pastures.
Yeah.
And at nighttime, you'll hit that with your car. They're dangerous,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So they called the sheriff's office, and I was working for the sheriff's office at the time, and I get this call to go out there, and I find these cattle. They had moved up onto this person's property in the front, so they were
Ah.
away from the road. And normally, if we can get them away from the road, we'll clear that call with, all right, the cattle. We got the cattle headed some other direction down the creek or whatever, and
Yeah.
we'll clear that call until someone else sees them. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do.
No.
Just try to keep them out of the road, until the
Mm.
next day when the owner and
Mm.
we'll have dispatch also. They have what they call a cow dex. Remember the old roller dexes that used to
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
well, we call it a cow dex because dispatch has a, list of most of the people that live around there, um, their names of who might have cattle, and then they can call
Mm.
those people and say, "Hey, uh,
Mm.
deputy's out with one of your cattle," and they'll take care of
Mm.
it that way. But if not, we just get them headed away from the roadway, and we'll clear that call and go on to another car. But on this particular time, you know, I don't know. There's so many damn ways to call a cow. A heifer. a
Yeah.
cow, a bull, or I mean, there's a yearling. I don't know, just a whole bunch of them, right?
Mm,
And I didn't grow up with all that, so
mm.
I went on this call, and it was it was a cow with no horns, right? So I get on the radio and I tell them, look, I've located this cow. I said, what do you call a cow with no horns? 'Cause I thought it might be a special name,
Mm.
uh, and dispatch, and everybody else comes back and says cow. I felt stupid on that. So
Oh dear.
I mean, and that's something that after about 30 minutes of laughing at yourself, you go on to another call, you kind of forget that. But that's what people who are not in law enforcement, that's interesting to them. But
Uh,
for us, it's just another day. No one else is on the radio. You kind
yeah.
of, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's
Uh,
quiet, and sometimes you'll play on the radio. You're not supposed to, but
have
somebody,
you
some
ever?
smart one.
I bet it happened over in Texas, but one time, or more than once, the radio, the handpiece, is about where your knee
Yeah,
might be,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the
I
radio
know.
locks on.
Yeah,
It's funny. Yeah, these two coppers, because where I work in Dubbo, there was always two coppers in the paddy wagon,
y'all are
and they
talking
might
to each
and
other.
they might be talking about the boss.
Yeah, yeah,
And because you can't interject, and when there's a break in it, we call it VKG, and then they go, there's a car in the Dubbo region with a radio locked on.
yeah. Open mic.
That might be a very quick transfer the next week to some godforsaken place out the back blocks in New South Wales.
People don't realize how often that happens either.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And,
funny, isn't it?
and the
Oh,
rest of us are giggling because we know who it is.
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, he just didn't say that."
One time when I moved to my first one man station, so I went from an extremely busy station to this place where nothing much happened, or comparatively speaking,
Oh,
and there was a bloke there that I learnt through various sources that he was going to grow a commercial quantity of marijuana in his house, a hydroponic setup in this tiny, really isolated village. And I then, it's a bit of a complicated long story, but I said to him, because he was whinging, he was a career criminal, this bloke, with, bikie connections. Anyway,
mhm.
and he was whinging to me, and I said, mate, he said, all the boss sees is numbers, arrest numbers. He said, you make mine look good. He said, you've become my new hobby. So, uh,
Right.
when one of the times I arrested him, and there was two of us there arresting him, and anyway, it was a bit of a tussle. And when we finally got him, and his wife was there, and his adult daughter was there, and they were filming it, and it was the whole thing. But when I finally got him into the cage in the truck, and I got in, I was breathless. I got into the truck because we then had to say, our call sign, and then we used to say one in custody. And
Yeah.
the radio operator was giggling, and she said, say my call sign was Grenthorpe 16. Grenthorpe 16, we've got a triple O call, same as your 911. We've got a triple O call from your location saying the police are assaulting somebody. And
God.
I was in this breathless voice. I said, no, radio, it's called getting arrested. And she was laughing.
Yeah. You
Anyway,
know, people don't realize that happens all the time. If you'll be on a call or you'll be on a traffic on the side of the road with somebody and they
mm,
don't like what's going on, they'll call 911. I think you guys call it triple O,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
911's our emergency line.
uh,
And so it's immediate and they're complaining about the police officer. I need a police officer out here because this police officer is not listening to me. So, and,
yeah.
and
It's
then
crazy, isn't it?
crazy. I would
Yeah,
never think of that,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
it happens.
yeah,
It
yeah,
probably happened a handful of times in the last probably 18 years for me.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens.
yeah.
It's
Wow.
happening is like, are you
Yeah.
serious? You're calling the emergency line? You
But
know?
you know what it's like when you show up at someone's home and they're not used to the police being there. It's a bit confronting, isn't it? You know, oh, bloody hell, there's police here, but part of the town when I worked in Dubbo, there's part of the town there, and if they didn't see us, they'd become distressed because they were just so used to us being there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they'd be worried. Gee, what's going on? The cops aren't here.
What's going on in town?
Must be some big emergency on the other side of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It,
but we
you know,
we had a lady once ring us up from that real bad part of town, and she said, "So what's the problem?" Oh, she said, "I've just moved here, and I saw someone walking through my backyard." And I'm thinking, so what? You know, get used to it. It
oh,
was
because of the
nothing. I mean,
area.
technically an offence called trespassing, but anyway, I don't know if she hang around there long.
Yeah, I mean, it, it's funny sometimes, that people will call dispatch. Well, let me put it this way. So, like a child, 2 or 3 years old, will pick up the phone and dial 911, right? And then when the dispatch picks it up, 911, what is your emergency? They'll hang up. Now they're
Ah,
just that, they're just playing on the phone and they don't know the
mm,
significance, of it or the gravity
mm,
of it, I should say.
mm,
And the dispatch, their policy is to call back that number, when they
mm,
hung up, call back.
mm, mm,
And a lot of times people will pick up and say, hey, it was my kid playing on the phone. We still have to go out there
mm,
and make
mm,
contact
mm,
because I mean, I guess the thought is that yeah, the parents beating the snot out of,
mm,
the dad's beating the snot out of mom or mom's beating the snot out of the son
mm,
or whatever. And
mm,
the youngest kid got on there and to cover themselves. Now it was my 3-year-old that did that, or
mm,
instead of
mm,
but we
mm,
still have to roll out there, and
mm.
99% of the time it's just a kid playing on the phone. But uh, you sometimes we have those people that are have mental issues and they'll call 911 if they don't get their electric bill,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you know
yeah.
it
The availability of police is part of I was going to say the problem, but part of the equation, isn't it? You can ring the cops whenever, and like you said about we one time had to go to a house, and it was this older couple. They probably would have been in their 70s, and they were a pair of alcoholics, and they lived in this half a house, and uh, and we got there one night. I sort of knew this bloke a bit because he used to. First time I come across him, he goes, "Oh, can you give me a lift?" And I said, "Mate, we don't give you a lift. It doesn't say police on there. It doesn't say taxi. It says police. You know." "Oh no, it's my
it's just
birthday
awful
today."
showing up.
"It's my birthday today." So okay, because it's your birthday, I'll give you a lift home. Anyway, about 3 months later, he forgot, and I said, "Mate, you had a birthday 3 months ago." Yeah. So,
Right.
but so we had to go to his house one night, and we got there, I'm thinking, what's the problem? We get there, and he says, "Mate, the power's gone off." I'm thinking, so you ring the cops, 000, ring the cops because the power's gone off. Anyway, so I thought I'd try and be as helpful as possible, and I could see on the PowerPoint there was a light shining, a light on. I knew there was a power there. So I'm thinking, this is reasonable sort of a person. I'm thinking, well, he wants his refrigerator going. So I went to plug the fridge in. He said, "Oh, no." He said, "Bugger the fridge." He said, "Well, we just want the TV going." So then I had to plug it in, get that TV going. But as soon as that horrible urine smell, that ammonia smell, as soon as
Yeah.
we went in, that was just, you know. And then these poor people, these people would have passed on a long time ago. They were not alive anymore, so I don't mind telling the story. But they had single beds, right? They weren't that far apart. And at the end of each bed, they would get up during the night and they would just open up their bladder and just wee on the carpet. And you could see stalagmites of salt building up. It was just filthy. Like, what happens to people when they think, I'm just going to go and wee on the carpet?
Yeah. Yeah. See, normal people don't do that, but and normal people don't see other people doing that. So we're
No.
so fortunate, and that I tell people all the time, man. When they say, "Oh, we live in the best place in the world," which we do. We live in a real safe town, but they don't see the people that we see. So they only see the good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, here's another funny. Not, I mean, I guess it could be funny. I'm deathly afraid of snakes.
Hmm.
I haven't developed the sense to where I can look at a snake and see and tell if it's poisonous or not. A lot of
Oh,
my
right.
friends can.
Oh,
They go,
yeah.
"Oh, that looks like a rattlesnake, but it's really this kind of snake." I don't give a shit. That thing scares the hell out of me. It slithers along. But we'll get phone calls as police officers that
Uh,
we saw a snake in our bedroom. We got to go to that.
yeah.
Now, everybody knows I'm definitely scared of snakes, but I can't push that call off on somebody else. So
Mm,
we got to swap. We talked about it before. You can be
mm,
scared, but you still got to go.
yeah.
And I went, and they
You
showed
had a
me.
good
Now,
look, did you? I can't see it.
let me tell you. Let me tell you what I did. So I was in the bedroom, and she said, "I saw it over there," or he. I can't remember what it was. This was many years ago. And I went over and looked, and you know how the a snake sheds its skin.
Hmm. Mm,
So I saw that skin,
yeah.
right? And it was a big ass skin. So I knew the rest of that snake was big. And so that skin had, when I opened the door, the wind from the air conditioner
Oh, no.
blew that skin a little bit, right?
Good.
I, I
That's
jumped up on these
horrible.
people's bed. So I'm standing on their bed in uniform, boots. I'm like, where is it? Where is it? They're like, no, that's the skin. We don't know, or the shedded the skin. We don't know where the rest of the snake went. And I looked probably for 30 minutes or so. I never found that snake. So that snake was in that house
Uh,
somewhere, and it was
uh,
a big snake. And I don't know if it was,
uh,
poisonous or not poisonous. I mean, they're all
mm.
poisonous to me. Um, I
What
mean, I
was
just leave them alone, but
a few years ago where I live now? There was we have two, there's actually three different kinds of snakes on King Island. One of them is just a green python snake, not poisonous, but the other two are copperhead and
yeah.
and a copperhead and a tiger snake, and they're both venomous. Anyway, so one day at home, I had a pile of corrugated iron on the ground, and my dogs had access to that part of the yard. And I saw a snake, it was in the summertime, disappearing or going underneath this pile of corrugated iron. And I thought, I was very tactical about it. And I thought, if I don't get that snake now, I'm never going to get it. And my dogs could get bitten
Yeah.
and die, you know. I was thinking more about how much it's going to cost me to vet,
Yeah.
to
Right.
have it there, probably hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So what I did was disappearing. I thought it can't see me, and I very quickly and quietly just grabbed it, and I just grabbed it by the tail and just picked it up, and I just flung it around. And I can't actually remember exactly how I got rid of it, but probably just dashed its head on the ground or something like that. But I felt like a bit of a deal. I thought that could have ended badly.
Yeah.
but,
Uh,
but
let me
anyway,
tell you a story of my neighbor and a snake.
uh,
And he's passed on now too. So I mean, he laughed about it as well.
mm,
So they had a snake in their garage. So his wife comes in and yells, and it's been a long time since I told this story, so I might have to change some of the things around. But his wife, I know what it was. His wife they were pulling the garage door down, and this snake had been on top of the
oh,
garage door. So when she put it down,
oh,
or he put down one, that snake
no,
dropped off, right?
mm-hmm.
And went underneath the car. And so she runs into the house and she tells her husband, now he's a big old boy, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, he likes donuts, and I mean, he's big
Mm,
and a super, super nice and funny guy. But
mm,
she tells him, hey, there's a snake in the garage and it went under my car. So he
uh,
says, well, all right, let's go out there. And he gets this rake, this, a lawn rake. And he
uh,
says, get in the car, back the car up. And when you do, I'll be able to get to the snake and I'll kill the snake. And she
uh,
said, okay. So she sneaks out there. She gets in the car. She starts it up. She starts to back up. And this is nighttime. She
uh,
starts to back up, and her headlights, as she's backing up, hits that snake that's in the middle of the garage, and she freaks out and she hits the gas and almost runs into the garage.
oh,
They had a separate garage, like a shop.
oh,
She stopped right before she
oh,
went through that
strike.
garage because
Oh,
she
no.
and he's in all he's in is his underwear, right? 'Cause he's kind of living in the country. So he sees this snake and he
Uh,
beats the tire out of it with a rake and kills it, right?
uh,
He and he scoops that snake up in that rake and he hangs that rake over his shoulder and
oh,
he walks
what?
out across the road to throw this snake over the fence into this pasture out there because it was dead. Let the birds get it the next day, right?
uh,
And so he slings that snake over, and it's dark. Remember that. That's a good fact. He
uh,
slings that snake over that fence. It's gone. He starts coming back, and he feels something touching him on the shoulder. Right?
oh, no.
That
Oh,
snake.
no.
The snake wasn't dead,
Oh, no. That's
and it
bad.
didn't go off that rake. It's not. It's dark, so he thought he flung it out in the
Wow.
pasture.
Wow.
I guess it
Oh,
wasn't, but he could feel it every time he'd walk, and
oh,
when
good.
he turned
Oh,
around.
oh,
And he saw that snake on that rake, and I guess it was raised up, and
uh, uh,
he said he threw the rake and everything over that fence and
uh,
ran back to his house. And
uh.
that's just a funny story, man. It
That's,
had nothing to
I
do
love
with.
snake stories. When I lived in New South Wales, probably I think there's a snake up there called the eastern brown snake. It's a
Mhm.
very boring name, isn't it? It's a brown snake, and it's definitely brown. But it is really dangerous because not only is it highly venomous, it's aggressive. You know,
Mm,
I
yeah.
call it the mother-in-law snake.
Oh yeah.
It just wakes up cranky. I've
Yeah.
seen one, and I've seen it here on King Island with I was either a tiger snake or a copperhead snake, raise up and attack the tyre of a vehicle as it drove slowly past. That was the eastern brown. I've seen that do that. And down here on King Island, I was driving my tractor along the road, like on a sealed road, tar road, and I saw one of these copperhead or tigers. I can't really tell them apart. Yeah, and it's coming across the road, and I had no
Yeah.
reason to hurt it. So I actually diverted, this big tractor around it, and it did the same thing. It raised up to attack the tyre. For wow, I ain't going to trust them. They're
I'd
cranky
say
too.
game on. I'd be
Yeah,
like, all right, game on.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, man.
one time we got called to a job. This lady asked us. She had a lizard in her house. Now in Australia, we get some pretty big lizards. The biggest one's called a goanna, and it can
Yeah,
be about 2 meters long. They're pretty spectacular lizard. Anyway, so we get this call. This lady's got a lizard in her house, and I'm thinking, well, it could be a goanna, but it's most likely going to be what we call a blue tongue, which can be probably about that big. Anyway, we get there. It was in the night time, and we go in, and she points to this thing. It's called a gecko. You know what a
yeah,
gecko is?
yeah.
Yeah, it's about
We have,
this big. And she was
yeah.
frightened of it. I
We
just
call
picked it up. I hadn't I actually got a plastic bag, put my hand in the bag and folded it into the bag and took it across the road and let it go. I couldn't believe she
Yeah.
was petrified of a gecko.
No, in fact, with the geckos, when I see them, and they don't like to come out, in when they're indoors, they get the bugs and the gnats, and I
Oh,
leave them
yeah.
alone.
Must be the same one. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I don't know, man, but people call police for all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Do you have alligators where you live?
The hell no, we don't have alligators here. I wouldn't be living here. They do all about probably I say 300 kilometers away for us
That's
would
in
be.
Florida. There's alligators in Florida, isn't there?
Yeah, they got alligators in Florida, but I think East Texas has some too.
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
Maybe closer to the Gulf, that part of
Oh,
Texas.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
hear. I don't know. I've never seen one.
Yeah. People when people come here and they're worried about they go into the ocean here and they're worried about the about crocodiles. And I say no, there's no crocodiles. The sharks ate them all. So
Dude, is not what?
the sharks ate them
Sharks
all.
ate all the yeah, I mean, y'all are pretty brave to be swimming out
Oh,
there.
it's a dangerous place, this Australia. When I lived up in Sydney, in New South Wales, man, the worst, I think probably one of the worst spiders on the planet called the Sydney funnel web. It is highly venomous and really aggressive too. They're
Really?
just, oh, mate, they're a horrible spider. The Sydney funnel web, man, oh, man. when I was a little kid, they were still working on the anti-venin. And so they were they were publicly asking for people to bring funnel web spiders to this particular wildlife park up in Gosford. And so we had about three of them. My mother caught one in my bedroom one night. I was only a little kid. And so we went up to this wildlife park the next day. My father said, oh, let's go up there and take these spiders up there. We had three of these funnel webs. Anyway, the bloke up there found out later he was an alcoholic, but he had this jar, and I'm dead set, I swear this funnel web filled the bottom of the jar. And
Wow.
this bloke came out. He's like the Steve Irwin of his day, you know. Anyway, and he undid the lid on this jar with this big funnel web in it. We all took about 10 steps backwards because he took the lid off. He then, like a real showman, he then tipped it on his flat hand, this dirty, great big funnel web. And we were just about running out of the place.
Yeah.
And he just went, oh, yes, very nice specimen, you know, put it back in the jar. All showmanship. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, but man, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just I like my air conditioning and I like my heater and
Yeah.
I used to tell people they asked me why I became a police officer, and not maybe, you know, work in an office somewhere. I don't know where they would think that I would be office material, but they ask,
Mm,
and I would tell them that yeah, and we've discussed this on this channel before, that this is the best circus in town, you
yeah.
know, but my in the summertime, my office has air conditioning and it's got
Mm,
window, I have a window
mm,
seat, you know.
yeah.
And then in the wintertime, I have a window seat and it's heated. And if I want to go over there, I go over there. If I want to go over there,
Mm,
I go over
mm,
there. And I
mm,
never have to punch a time card. I never
yeah.
have to, I want to turn right and go,
Yeah.
10 miles
Yeah.
and turn, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what kind of, I don't know if I'd have been a good employee uh, if I had to just go to work and, you know, even if I had windows at my office and just look at the same scenery,
Mm,
for
mm,
27 years. So
mm.
I know police work is not for everybody, but I bet it's for more people than they think, you know?
That's an interesting thought. Mm, yeah, right. Mm,
Yeah, because I'm nobody special, I mean,
mm, mm.
I could
Yeah.
have picked some other employment, uh,
Mm, mm.
I've had two jobs in my whole adult life, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
One
That's
was a Marine,
interesting.
and I
Uh,
freaking lucked into the best job in my life being in the
mm,
Marine Corps. That's
mm,
in my
mm,
opinion.
mm,
Loved it.
mm.
And then became a police officer for 27 years and lucked into another wonderful
Yeah.
occupation, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I'm no different than anybody else that, works at a factory, works in a grocery store, works at a
Uh,
restaurant. I'm
uh,
the same guy.
yeah.
I
Uh,
just learned the laws and knew how to apply them. And
uh,
um, I'm not a confrontational person, but the job might.
mm,
So, Peter, I know we've been shooting the breeze here for a little bit, but what I wanted to do was talk about this use of force continuum.
mm-hmm,
Uh, I think I started to say at the beginning of this that I asked my wife. I said, hey, do you have a question that you would like to know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And she goes, let me think for a minute. And it took her like 2 seconds,
mm-hmm,
which scares me. She says, yeah, I'd like to know, do they use pepper spray? What does it take for them to use pepper spray? So
mm-hmm,
I said, what you're
mm,
talking about is what
mm,
we deal with in Texas is called the use of force continuum. I said, I
mm-hmm,
think that's a great
mm,
question to
mm.
ask Peter.
All
And
right.
I'll after you do yours, then I'll tell you how we do it in Texas and
Mm,
what the
mm,
different and the similarities are. So
mm,
tell me, what when you would go out to a call, uh, and it was just a normal call. You would maybe it was a suspicious person call. You
mm-hmm,
know, somebody walking around an empty bank. I mean, a bank after hours, and you would
mm-hmm,
get the call, and you
mm-hmm,
would go out and make contact with
mm-hmm,
that person.
mm-hmm.
How would you initially approach that person? And I mean, would you initially approach with your weapon out, or would you start at something very, very low?
when I started in the police, there was the powers of arrest were in a thing called the Crimes Act 1900, and that's still around. But the powers of arrest were in there. But during my time in the police, they actually extracted that and put it into another Act of Parliament. And one of the interesting things about that is that in the original powers of arrest, we had the power of arrest. I'm not very familiar with it now, but it was if someone was just loitering at night, it was similar to what you told us once before about if someone's on your property at night and use of force. But we had a power of arrest. If someone was loitering, I think it had something to do with the industrial area. We could arrest them simply because they were loitering. But that when it went to the new Act of Parliament, that dropped off. The other thing that happened was that if I was if to use deadly force, I had to fear. I had to fear more for my own welfare than I did for a citizen. So the concern I had for a citizen to shoot someone was less. I forget what the word was, but for me, if I was going to be injured, it had to be a higher level of concern before I could shoot. But in the new act called the Law Enforcement Powers and Responsibilities Act, that became the same, and all it says is serious injury.
Yeah.
So if either as member of the society or me, and but when I joined the police, we didn't have capsicum spray. We used to. I'm not sure. We used to have the big battens in the truck, like in the door of the truck, a big spun aluminium batten about that big. They were always there, but then I think during my time in the police, we actually got the snap out battens. You know, the little one you snap out. We
Yeah.
carried that on our belt.
Yeah.
But then came capsicum spray, and then after that tasers. But you go back to your question, what would I do if I saw someone? Well, I would just use that tactical advantage about using darkness and not standing out, not standing in a light. Um, yeah, the fatal funnel, that sort of stuff. Like use your voice to a very a commanding level. You've talked about that before. You be in a commanding position. And one of the things I used to do, Mike, not something I was taught in the academy, just something I figured out for myself, was if I was dealing with a bunch of hoods on the street, and they would say there was 3 or 4 of them, and they outnumbered us. I would never lose my tactical advantage in doing this, but I would point to a point on the ground, and I would say, "You go and stand there." And never once did that person not do that. They just went and stood where I told them to stand. Now, the only reason I did that was that for me to decide who's in charge here, and it's not
Yeah.
you. I'm in charge. So they're
Yeah.
using that. So I guess to answer your question, that escalation of force, I would just say use all those covers, those natural covers, whether it's a pillar or darkness or car, to my advantage, and always keep them at a disadvantage. The way we use torches, you shine a torch, but then you move,
Yeah.
shine a torch and then stay there. All those types of things. I mean, plenty of, really tight situations where we would do that. And so, but the advantage probably we have in Australia is that very, very few people walk around with firearms. In
Yeah.
fact, I shouldn't say never, but rarely did I encounter anyone that was actually armed with a firearm. But of course, then there's broken bottles and hands, and once an edge weapon was produced, whether that's a shard of glass or anything you could, apart from being a knife, of course, once there's an edged weapon produced, we were authorised to resort to deadly force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
If you were in fear of your fear of death or serious bodily injury, then I'm sure
mm,
it
mm,
was authorized
mm,
in
uh,
Australia.
mm,
Maybe so. In Texas, we have what they call a use of force continuum.
mhm,
So in that scenario where the call just comes out as a suspicious person, right? So
mm,
there's no offense been committed. Um,
mm,
it's just a person that's suspicious. What's he doing in the same vicinity? I mean, somebody called in and said, "Hey, I see this guy. He's dressed all in black, and he's walking down the
mm,
sidewalk, and he keeps walking
mm,
back in front of this
mm,
bank. Maybe I'll need to check it out." Right.
mm,
So
mm,
we would roll out there, and so our use of force continuum, we have to start out at the lowest level,
mm,
So just officer presence would be the first level,
mm-hmm,
right? And if
mm-hmm,
that wasn't enough, then maybe we do verbal commands like you were just demonstrating with, hey, you stand over there or whatever. Uh, maybe soft controls, maybe after that would be soft controls where now we're going to be frisking somebody and putting handcuffs on them, uh, to even up to the point of putting them on the ground. And then hard controls, that's going to be the ASP, the soft controls, caps can spray. I forgot to
mm-hmm,
mention that.
mm-hmm,
We'll come back to that because you said you guys do that too.
mm,
So the hard controls would be like an ASP, the extendable batons that we carried the same ones that you did.
mm,
I would say, or
mm,
say at least similar. And but we also carried tasers, so that would be kind of categorized in the hard control. Plus, we
mm.
also had shotguns. We had regular shotgun, and then we had a shotgun with an orange tip on it, and those had bean bags in them.
Oh,
That would
yeah.
be considered a hard. So we would just escalate it, but we wouldn't start at the bean bag. We'd have to do the
Mm,
officer presence
mm,
first. And if that wasn't getting us anywhere, because you got to think this person is just he's a free man. He's just walking on the sidewalk,
mm,
right? He hasn't committed any offense yet, so
mm,
he's really not a bad guy. But what you were saying that if it's nighttime with us in the at least in Texas, and I think it's like this in the entire United States because of our Constitution. Uh, there's a certain amount of freedom that's afforded people, right?
mm,
If you're walking on the sidewalk, it's paid by taxpayer money. That
mm,
means you can't you can't trespass somebody from public property because they
mm,
have a certain ownership in it as well,
mm,
if that makes sense.
mm,
And so just for the fact that he's walking on the sidewalk, it might be suspicious that he keeps going back and forth, but that just may be his thing, man. Maybe
mm,
he's
mm,
tonight I'm going to walk back and forth, and regardless of the bank being there, but
mm, mm,
I thought it was suspicious. They called dispatch. We come in, and we would initially just make contact. uh, in Texas, we can ask them their name at that juncture. They
mm,
haven't committed an offense. We're
mm,
not considering them that they are about to consider an offense because they're on the sidewalk.
mm,
So we can ask their name. It's called a ID, field ID, where you
mm,
just and then we used to make cards and we would put them in a file at the S or at the police department. But if he doesn't want to give his name, at this point, we can't force him to give his name.
mm,
We can't force him to give us an ID. Uh,
mm,
but if we're by talking to him, it leads into the next level of maybe verbal commands, like you know maybe he steps onto that property. But if we don't have a complainant, I don't know if y'all
mm,
use that word or not. If we don't have the owner of the bank or the manager of the bank or somebody that has custody of that bank to to sit right there and say, all right, I want to criminally trespass this guy or trespass this guy. And then we have to allow him the opportunity to leave the property, not the
mm.
sidewalk. Let
All
him
right.
get the
Mm-hmm,
opportunity to leave. If he
mm-hmm,
doesn't leave, then we can charge him with criminal trespass.
mm-hmm,
But we can't solicit criminal trespass. Uh, it has to come from, I mean, so if a guy's at a gas station and he's hanging out by the gas pumps and he's harassing people as they come to the gas station,
mm,
and
mm,
and the gas station people call us and we roll out there, we can't we can't trespass that guy. The manager or the owner has to come out and say, hey, yeah, you know, I want to trespass you. You can't come out here anymore. And if that guy leaves, no harm, no foul.
mm,
And if he comes back, we can criminally trespass him. But if he doesn't leave at that point,
mm,
then we can go ahead and arrest him at that point.
mm,
So it's called the use of force continuum.
mm,
We have to have somebody. A police officer can't be the complaining person. It
mm,
has to be a citizen. Has to
mm.
be somebody that has custody or some kind of connection to that property. I
Oh,
hope that makes sense.
We had powers of during my time in the coppers, we had a power of move on powers. There had to be certain conditions, of course, but you could go to someone in a, it was almost always in a public area, had to be behaving in a certain way and say, mate, I'm going to give you a move on direction. If they didn't comply, well, then they'd be arrested.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was a bit, some people thought it was a bit controversial to be able to do that, but I mean, we certainly used to use it probably a fair bit.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, yeah, that reminded me of a story, by the way, another funny story. Um, and you guys might be able to relate to this one too down there, but yeah, we didn't have that power of move on. I mean, if it's public property, then
Hmm.
they're part of the public, and you know,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was a reasonable thing. I probably a bit rusty on what the circumstances were, um, but you could use it, relatively easy, I suppose. I mean,
yeah,
it was a good, I think it was a good thing to be able to do. And it was good for the person too, because you don't want people to get into trouble for no reason or to end up in trouble. I think it was good.
yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. There's obviously scenarios where that's a good thing, and there's
Mm,
scenarios where that's a bad thing. I
yeah,
mean, uh, at the very core, if you're, the way we consider it is if you're human and if you're not breaking the law,
yeah,
then, I
yeah.
mean, and it, and you don't stretch the law to fit the situation,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
easy to do,
yeah.
then
Did you have a particularly dim view of security guards? Because I know in the police we did. The security guard would come over and try and sidle up to us and act like they're one of us, and nah, mate, and go away.
um, yeah, I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, yeah, we did. Those poor
Uh,
guys.
uh,
It was always, in sociology they call it us. It's us and them. You know,
yeah,
if you us, it's you wear a badge. You've been to the academy. We all know
yeah,
the same
yeah, yeah.
laws, all
Have they
that. But
spoken to your neighbours?
right, right, yeah.
Um,
So yeah, it's I was never rude or mean to
oh
anybody.
no, oh neither. But I'm only talking about just a handful of times, but no, it just wasn't appropriate. They try and act like they're
Yeah,
one of us, and no, no, you're not. Sorry.
yeah, I know, man. I wouldn't come out and say that
No.
personally. I work for
Mm,
some guys that would, but I mean,
mm,
I always had a look, but for the grace of God, there go
mm.
I. I mean, but for the
Yeah,
grace of God,
it sounds like a horrible thing to say. But
no, I don't,
um,
and I
mm,
hope it doesn't sound like that. I'm just saying that, the I don't know what their circumstances were. Maybe
yeah,
for
mm,
us, if they had a felony in their background 20 years
mm,
ago, they're
mm,
still ineligible to be a police officer.
mm,
So
mm,
maybe to them, they've straightened out. And I'm just speculating all this,
mm,
but
mm,
to them, they straighten out, but yet, the law is not going to allow them to go to
mm,
the academy, go to
mm,
be a police officer. So the
mm.
closest they can get is being a security guard. And uh,
Yeah,
like you said, they act like they're one of us, but when
uh,
we clear that call, they ain't coming with us.
mm. Um, well, our time's up apparently. Wade's is
Wow, really?
giving me the
Okay.
sign. So, um, so if anyone's has any other things they'd like us to discuss, just let us know. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
otherwise, we'll continue. We'll just continue to chat and shoot. What was your expression? Shoot the breeze. That's fun. I love
yeah,
doing that.
man. Some people call it shooting the bull, bullshit.
Yeah,
Shooting the
yeah,
bull.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
One of the, One of the things I noticed, Mike, is in all the comments that I got from my last podcast that was published yesterday, you get mentioned quite a bit in our
Oh, really?
conversations each week.
I
So
hope
that's
it's good.
good. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, people love it. Yeah, and then
Well,
said that
good.
they'll be tuning in, and so people are really loving our conversations, and they're really appreciating you. And have a look at it, and just look at
Yeah.
the comments, and so it's been really great. So
Well, I
yeah.
enjoy it.
Mm,
Uh, I enjoy talking to you, obviously, and I,
mm,
I like learning about these the differences and the
Mm,
similarity, you know.
mm.
Um,
Can next
I
time the coat that's up there behind you before behind on the wall, would we be able to talk about that next time?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. The
Yeah,
flak jacket. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'd love to know more about that. Looks
Yeah.
fantastic.
In fact, a couple, uh, several podcasts ago, a guy said, "Hey, you've talked about the F-18, you talked about the
Mm,
F-4.
yeah.
Maybe one time you could take some time and talk about your
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd love
I'd
to
be
know
glad.
more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
Right.
long as
Well,
it don't
thanks for
go
yeah. Thanks for I got a plumber at my house doing some work, putting some roof guttering up. So I got to get home and help him. So
my brother. Well, good seeing you again. I'll see you your next Saturday.
beautiful. Right. Thanks, mate. See ya.
All right, brother. Talk to you
Ta-da.
later.